Okay, so for the fourth of 6 Saito engines sent to me, this one is an FA65. If it's true to the box, then it's a 1990s version. This instruction manual is interesting because later ones in the 2000s actually say the year, but this doesn't, and it only goes from the 50 to the 150 Golden Knight, so obviously this manual predates the 180, all those other newer engines, which is kind of cool. Looks like it's got the good exhaust, all the tools and everything. So let's check this thing out here. So it has the satin finish rocker covers, which are older style, could have been maybe one of the early 90s versions. This older style throttle arm is also indicative, and the air bleed, or not air bleed, but the throttle stop screw is indicative. So this is probably a very early 90s vintage engine, and it looks like it has an Enya prop nut and Enya prop washer on it, so that's not standard. It's got really good compression, but listen. Could just be dry, but that's what we do this inspection for. We'll see what's going on in there. So gasket's intact, looks good. Got some carbon buildup in there. So the owner sent this to me saying, inspect, replace parts that are necessary. It's got some run in there, it's got some run time. I have a feeling this owner is just going to want me to do a complete disassembly, clean, and replace bearings anyway from our earlier discussions. So that's what we're going to do with this engine. I'll ask if he wants a stock nut and washer added to that, obviously a gasket set, or maybe I've got one laying around. Otherwise this engine doesn't look like it's in too bad a shape. I don't see any major issues. That sound could just be one of the tappets dropping out, but since they're both working, I don't see any major issues with this engine. Here's the fifth of six Saito engines. Another gold box. This one's an FA91S, as all 91s are. Let's see what kind of condition this engine is in. Pretty clean exhaust. Looks like it had some stuff on it at one time, but was buffed off really poorly. It's got all kinds of swirl marks all over it. Oh, this is cool. Cool, but I don't know if all that's stock with a 91S. Maybe it is. Same vintage as that 65, it looks like. Early 90s. Wow, this is a really nice looking engine here. Oh yeah, that's a good 91 there. Oh yeah. Gaskets, head gaskets, or rocker cover gaskets. Very clean looking. Okay, now well, this engine may not need anything at all. I'm going to pull the carb off and that rear cover, take a look inside there and make the determination of what needs to be done to this engine, because it almost kind of looks like maybe this is a one. It has been run, I can smell that. This might just be like a one run and put away type of thing here. Oh, that's interesting. So somebody shattered that. I've never ever seen one of those break like that before. So that choke mechanism is broken. Gasket's fine. A little dry inside is all. This one I'm probably going to just oil up. Oh, there's a big glob of dried residue, like the engine was sitting like that. Might just oil this thing up and run it and see what it feels and looks like after that. Assess these bearings after running the engine, I think, is what I'm going to do on this one. Okay, so here's the 6th of the 6 engines sent to me for initial inspection, repair, whatever. This one is a Saito FA100, which by far has to be my least favorite of all Saito engines because of the nasty reputation they have and I've witnessed. So needless to say, we'll check this guy out and see what's going on with this one. Let's see here. The note says, used on eBay, fin by glow plug bent, back clip above needle valve bent, front prop nuts, 2 washers bent, push rod, front push rod bent. So yes, it does have 2 prop washers, which one is a Saito, one is not. Not a big deal there. Yeah, he's talking about the ratcheting clicker. All we got to do is just bend that in a little bit. It's also got some marring here on the carb body. Moves freely. No issues on the front prop drive. Feels like it has very little compression. And yes, well, yeah, that front pushrod tube is kind of mangled, so let's pop these covers off here real quick, because that could be telling the story of the no compression. It could be that something there is just not moving because of that damage, which is funny because how in the hell does it get damaged on the back side like that? Let's see what we got here. Well, intake pushrod's moving still. Looks like the exhaust pushrod is moving. So we have movement there, but a marked lack of compression. So maybe the valves aren't set very good. Yeah, that's what it is. So if I go to my intake, now we're going to the compression stroke here. Pull this out. Eyeball where top dead center is. And yeah, let's just do it with the rear cover off. It'll make it a lot easier. Okay, so let's see here. On the compression stroke, top dead center. Yeah, this exhaust valve is, or intake valve is set too tight, so that's why we have no compression there. Because that's set too tight, so that valve's not closing, while this one is way far open. So that one's starting to close, or open already before this one is, wow, is it ever? No, it's just that intake rocker arm is just set incorrectly. But the inside of this doesn't look like it's a very high time engine. A little bit of caramel color here from whatever fuel was being used. That'll clean right up. I guess what I'll do with this engine is do a complete disassembly. I'm going to have to at least take the head off so I can replace the pushrod and see, make sure the pushrod isn't damaged, make sure the tappets or cam follower there isn't damaged. So lack of compression due to intake valve latch set incorrectly, but because of the pushrod damage, I'm going to have to do a disassembly. I'll determine at that time whether the bearings need to be replaced or not, because they feel fine to me.